Hey, welcome back to PewTube. Kevin Inoue here with Fight Designer LLC. Today I want to talk about some of my pet peeves. Yeesh, they're such nice little peeves. No, not like that. So I just got back from a Cleveland Indie Club meeting. Great to see a bunch of people who are just putting themselves out there and trying their first projects. A lot of people showing their first things, which is awesome. See, here's the thing about pet peeves. This is stuff that annoys me. But that doesn't mean that the people who do it annoy me. It doesn't mean I think you're stupid. It doesn't mean that I don't like you. It just means I want to help you. So here we are. This is me doing my part. Now these are not just mine. I'm sure these go for a lot of the gun people out there. But in no particular order. Pet peeves. Number 1. Cup and saucer grip. This to me is one of those dead giveaways that nobody on set knows a damn thing about guns, or at least felt like they could say anything about it. This idea of kind of bracing the bottom here, it might help with target shooting, where all you really need to do is just have a slow and steady grip. And if you're doing, black powder or something like that, sure. If you're only going to get off one shot before you have to stop and do other stuff with the firearm, that's fine. But with modern firearms, in a combat situation, the point of that second hand is not to steady your front hand, it's to be able to help with retention if somebody tries to grab it. And it's to help with follow-up shots. This idea of reacquiring the target, because after your first shot, if this is a real firearm and there's recoil, you're going to have muzzle flip, boom, it's going to pop up a little bit, and then what you want to do is make it pop up a little less and make sure that you can get it right back on target as soon as possible. A grip here does nothing with that. A grip around the front, like this, will. What we want is a grip that both covers some of this open real estate in your primary hand, and that helps keep the bottom part from rotating, because muzzle flip, it's going to go around this axis of where it is on your hand. This part's going to push back, so the muzzle goes up. But notice how the handle, the grip, also goes forward. So what we need is a backwards push here to compensate for the equal and opposite reaction happening up here on the bore axis. So I want this hand to be as high and tight up here as we can, so that it's not putting the leverage on me, right? Good grip there. And I want my other hand to wrap in nice and tight around here, so that it covers as much of that as it can. This does not help at all in a combat situation with a modern firearm. Pet peeve number 2. And that's just maybe 2 and 3 together, or 2 and 2.5. People who cycle the action of their firearm excessively, especially when it just gives away that they're out of ammunition. So if I need to show that I'm about to go into an action situation, a lot of directors probably actually like this business of doing something with it. But the problem is, modern semi-automatics are made to have a slide lock back when you're out of ammunition, which means this is now painfully obvious to anybody who knows firearms that you do not have a loaded firearm. This is the opposite of the effect you want to have, which is, look, I'm ready for action. I've just cycled the action and chambered around, right? So, first of all, if you're doing that, it means you didn't have a round chambered beforehand. Otherwise, there's no reason to do that, which means you were carrying your gun without one in the chamber. Most people who are going into combat or suspect that they might need one for combat or are trained and professionals in operating these things, they're going to carry one in the chamber most of the time. There's a few exceptions. I've heard French police don't and things like that. But for the most part, people need to carry one in the chamber. So you don't have to do that. If you want to check and make sure there's one in the chamber, do a little press check. Right? Just check, pull it back a little bit and see. Yep. And there's a couple examples of people doing that in movies. From John Wick all the way back, at least to Blood Diamond. I know Leonardo DiCaprio did one in there. But there's no need to cycle the whole action, especially if you're out of ammunition and you don't know to hold down the slide release. Now there's an easy out for that if they don't want to actually load your firearm, or if you've got an airsoft or something like that, and if they haven't modified it so that it has a dummy round in there or something else, like the follower in the airsoft is jammed down. All you really have to do is hold down this little slide release. It's somewhere near here on most firearms, and as long as you hold that down, the slide will go back forward. So if you want to look like you're chambering around, rather than doing that and giving away that you do not have a round chambered, just hold this down with your thumb as you go, and then it goes right forward again. Right? Incidentally, this is a front venting select fire Echo Jackal blank gun that I'm using right now, but the same applies to most blank guns, not all. Some of them don't do slide lock, and most airsoft guns as well. So it's worth doing. If you ever need to cheat, you can use either your dominant hand to hold that down, or if your hands aren't big enough, you know, you can maybe use your offhand, although I guess if you're racking the action, you probably have your offhand busy. But you can always angle it a little bit to the side if you need to be able to reach that. If your thumb, for some reason, can't reach it on, you know, if they've got small hands, they've given you a Desert Eagle or something, just angle it a little to the side so that you can actually reach the release and not have it stick back. Now, I will say, as an addendum to that, some firearms, they don't work the same way. So like these 1911s, holding down the slide release, it still won't go forward, and this can actually jack up your magazines if you're not careful. So with something like this, you need to either have a dummy round in there. If it's a blank fire, you can just put a spent round in there. Or you can, if it's an airsoft, you can jam that magazine down. You can probably even just leave the magazine out for most of these shots. People aren't going to be able to tell that there isn't actually a magazine in there unless you're directly showing it. Or if you have to, you can even just have it slightly out so it sticks out just a little bit and just hold it in there. Yep, a little more than that. Let's see, is that enough? There we go, yep. Yep. So, I mean, there are ways to cheat it if you have to, but my suggestion is that if you have to rack the slide, well, I'll leave this up to your armor. If it's a blank gun, my preference is to just put in a spent round. And then if we do get a little glimpse in the chamber, we'll see a little brass, a little something in there. It'll look more like actually chambering around, which is, I presume, what you're pretending to do when you do that. But this 1911 brings me to another point. Another pet peeve, single actions that are not cocked. Some of you have heard me talk about this before in the PewTube videos about 1911s or single action revolvers, but a single action firearm will only fire if this hammer is already back. If the hammer is not cocked, the trigger does nothing. So this is not really a threat, even if there's a round in the chamber. That is. Now it can be a continuity issue, but you know, it's just something to think about. Most people who carry these will carry them cocked and locked. Hammer back, safety on. When you're ready to go, you just flick the thumb safety off. Right? There's your act of your business. If you want to have something that shows you're getting ready, pull it out. If you want an insert shot of them doing something, just have them flick the safety off. Right? Just to show that they're getting ready for action. There's other things you can do besides continually racking that. If you do it more than once, all you'll be doing is just wasting ammo by having it spit out the top when it didn't get a chance to actually be put down range. Alright, next pet peeve. Fingers on the triggers. Now, here's the thing. I know there's a time and a place for this. If your character is not trained, or if your character is genuinely thinking that they might have to pull that trigger at a second's notice, sure. Makes sense, right? And hopefully you have an armor on set to make sure that it's not loaded and everything is safe and it's not going to accidentally go off. But as you're just kind of like drawing it, moving around, you know, not doing anything where it needs to be fired, let alone like, you know, gesturing with it, gesticulating with it, talking with it, you don't need to have your finger in the trigger guard. Just set it off to the side. It's not that hard to train actors to do that. It's, you know, you'll have to remind them a couple times until they build up that habit, but it's worth doing. Makes a big difference in how well they look like they know what they're doing. Next pet peeve. Wearing a handgun without a holster. Just tucking it in your pants, front or back. Bad idea. Don't do it. Just trust me. Alright, it's not that hard to find a holster, even if it's a cheap piece of crap nylon. Give your actor something, just so it's not going to fall out and go flopping around. Next one. Rifles with no sights. Now that these flat top ARs have gotten really popular, often you'll get an airsoft or a dummy gun and it doesn't come with any rear sight at all, let alone any optic. These have these rails because you're intended to put things on them. And when I see people doing this kind of stuff, how are you aiming? It makes no sense. You have nothing to aim with, right? Again, it's just laziness on behalf of the props department. Just stick something on there. I know it costs an extra, what, 15 bucks maybe to get a rail detachable rear sight that'll fit on here. It's worth it. I mean, come on. You can swap it around between different props. Just take the time, put in the effort. This would be an example of a quick detach rear sight. You know, if you don't want to go with the full carry handle, that's fine. Just get one of these things. slap it on there. It'll do the job. And while we're at it, another little pet peeve, people who put these EOTech sights on backwards for some reason. And I've seen pictures of real-life people, including police officers, with these on, mounted backwards. I don't know why, but for some reason, some people like to just don't, yeah, I don't know. It goes this way, that way, that way. These come in all different lengths and shapes and sizes, but in general, there's going to be that thing sticking out. It goes on that end. Incidentally, this is not a real EOTech. They totally ripped it off. This is a, $20 plastic piece of crap copy, but for, dressing up your $100 airsoft non-firing gun, that's just fine. I'm not going to spend $900 plus on a genuine EOTech sight to stick on this plastic electronic airsoft gun. Makes no sense. Next one, pointing them at your friends. Often it's easier to do with a handgun, but it's more noticeable with a rifle, so it's even worse with a long arm. But sometimes you'll have people who are just kind of walking around like this, This is proper muzzle discipline will also show that you're trained. So if you got in your buddy cop movie and you're both coming through a doorway, don't just cross right in front of each other. Just dip that down. Boop, boop. Not that hard to do, right? As they cross in front of you, just go right down so that you're not sweeping them with the muzzle, because that tells me that you have no training and or that you actually want to kill them. Now there's tons of Hollywood tropes and bad stereotypes and stupid gun physics we could get into. Honestly, some of that, it's just entertainment genre. It's just movies, movie magic, who cares? In the same way that, I don't really care if watch a play and the stage goes, like stage punch makes that sound. That's not the sound of a fist hitting a face, that's the sound of a hand clapping a chest. But I don't care, because I know what it's supposed to be, and I get it, and I go along for the ride. But there are some things that take me out of the story. That list is the beginnings of mine. I'd love to hear yours. What are the things that piss you off? What are your pet peeves? What are the things that annoy you? So that we can try and get all of that out there and have less of it in the world to drive us crazy. And today being the award ceremony, congratulations to all the winners. And for all of us who are wishing Stunts was a part of it and didn't watch it in part because of that, maybe next time we can keep open. Keep fighting the good fight. Until then, play safe, look good, have fun. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, link, like, comment. Let me know what you're interested in. And let's hear about your pet peeves.